On this episode of 101 Sports,
we break down the FCS Playoff Bracket,
discuss struggling teams in the NBA,
and take some laps in NASCAR.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts right now.
Welcome to this episode of 101 Sports. I'm Thomas Hale.
And I'm Ellie Whittington. Before we get into the show, Thomas and I are going to kick things off with the quick hitters. Last week, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones said he would sue the NFL if Commissioner Roger Goodell's contract was extended. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the current commissioner over the years, and many have wanted for a change. Does this represent the NFL owner's stance on Goodell, or is this just Jerry being Jerry?
Look, Ellie, Jerry's just going to be Jerry at all times, and no one can tell this guy what to do, and he especially doesn't want Roger Goodell telling him what to do, apparently.
He's the boss?
He's the boss. He's the boss right now.
I'm talking about Goodell as the boss, not Jerry Jones.
Oh, well, I mean, that's what he's arguing about. So Jerry Jones is kind of top owner right now, and I think he is speaking on behalf of a good collective of the owners, not all of them, because if all of them had an issue, he'd be gone by now.
I totally disagree.
What do you think?
Because Jerry Jones is mad because Goodell is kind of attacking his team. If it wasn't something to do with the Cowboys, this whole Ezekiel Elliott thing, him being suspended.
He could be under the water.
If this was when Ray Rice was suspended, was he mad? No, because he didn't care because it's not his team. Jerry Jones cares about the Cowboys.
And I totally agree that owners think that once it's affecting their money, that's when these guys are getting upset.
I will tell you something else. Jerry Jones did sue the NFL before, a few years ago for merchandising rights, and he won that lawsuit, which was kind of respected, and he did win that lawsuit. This isn't the first time he's done this, but I do think that he is in the wrong because he's not standing up for all 32 teams. He's standing up for the Cowboys.
In a way, he is, though, because he's having an issue with the contract extension.
Because of his player.
But before, it's because Goodell gets decided by 6 members. Now he wants the whole league to decide whether Goodell can keep his contract or not.
Well,
that's
he's
all
just
he
going to
wants.
continue to win.
All right. Shocking news hit the soccer world last night when Italy failed to qualify for the World Cup. This is the first time they've missed a World Cup since 1958. Italy is one of the premier soccer nations of the world. So, Ellie, what's the impact that this is going to have on Russia in the World Cup next year?
There's no impact.
No impact.
Because there's an impact
on
for
Italy.
There's an impact on Italy. There's an impact for Italy fans.
Okay.
For the World Cup,
Absolutely.
I don't think it's not going to diminish
when the
the
U.S.
impact.
didn't make it,
Correct.
It affected U.S. fans, but you don't think that the rest of the world cares?
No, not really, because unless you're an Italy fan, unless you're a U.S. fan,
and I do agree that you did touch right on the head, because now I'm seeing this as an opportunity for a lot of smaller teams to get an opportunity to make their way up. You see Iceland in the Euros. They made their way to the quarterfinals, I believe, and now they have an even better chance to make it far in the World Cup. That's huge.
Yeah, so I think it's great to see these smaller countries have this stage on a bigger platform. Is it bad for Italy? Yes.
Absolutely.
Does it, in that many years, and this is the first time? Yeah, so we see this in all of sports teams that have continued to make the playoffs, and then one time they don't.
With the amount of experienced players that the Italian team had, Barzagli, Chiellini, Gianluigi Buffon, one of the greatest goalkeepers in history, and you see just kind of this transition of power. These guys are leaving the world of soccer now, which is weird to see. And now you see new young teams coming up, like you got Belgium.
So are you okay with this?
I'm okay with it. I think it's about time for every team to kind of make their way in and out, and seeing a huge team like Italy getting knocked out, a lot of younger teams now, they can be like, maybe we can take that spot.
I just don't see a huge impact. So the World Cup is an exciting time, and I don't think that that's going to change.
Yeah, we won't miss Italy. We'll be all right.
Week 9 of the NFL looked more like WWE SmackDown than professional football. All in all, there were 3 separate fights and 5 players ejected from games. And others who should have been. Does the NFL need to start cracking down on players who fight?
So, I mean, I'm looking at this as kind of like hockey. When a fight breaks out, you get a little excited right at first, and you're like, ooh, let's see how this goes out. But then once they really start wailing on each other, you're kind of like, oh.
I think that for me, it's that the NFL has a rule book, and you can go and look at the rule book and what counts as should you be ejected, should you not.
Right.
These refs should have read the same rule book that all of us can read, and they need to be on the same line.
Yeah, and
so if you're going
touched on that exactly, is the consistency of the calls, I think. And especially the last weekend, we saw A.J. Green, Jalen Ramsey literally throwing blows on each other's helmets.
And
they get ejected, which is good. Mike Evans absolutely annihilates a Saints player on a dead play. 15-yard penalty.
I think And I think that is totally wrong. Also, I think the NFL needs to be strict on this because you have these players acting out and he starts at a small level and then increases and increases and increases. And we've seen this kind of violence off the field. And saying that this is okay is not good. And let them celebrate in the end zone. Let them do that thing. I'm all for that. But when it comes to fighting each other, play the game of football.
Yeah.
If you want to go to a WWE game, you want to go watch fighting, that's
My
fine.
issue with
Don't
that
do it on
is
the football
like,
field.
once again, the nature of football, it's such an aggressive game, and once guys are just on the line for hours and hours just beating on each other, you know, there's going to come a point where they might want to smack
Football,
around each other.
it's kind of a long game as it is, so don't take up time fighting each other. Let us watch
That's
football.
True. Very true. We need shorter games. Just a month into the NBA season, and already we have some strange flagrant foul calls. New rules were put in place that allows refs to call a flagrant foul on any contact they deem unnecessary. So, Ellie, are these new NBA rules too strict?
Yes.
Yeah?
Don't call these fouls. Another thing, fun fact about me, my first job was a referee.
Wow.
And they teach you, I was a soccer referee, they teach you in referee that if you're going to call, you have to decide at the beginning of the game. You're either going to call everything or you're not going to call anything at all.
That's good.
And I think that these are at a professional level, you need to let them play basketball.
Right, and like back 20 years ago, 90s basketball, 80s era basketball, all these things that they're calling as fouls now, you could do that all the time. Throw an elbow, no problem. Kind of give a little gut check, no problem. But now, refs are getting really picky about this kind of thing.
And I think this is more of a thing in college basketball. You mean to be a little bit more strict, but in the
Yeah.
NBA, I think that it is more of a fun game, in my opinion.
Right.
Let them play. If you watch the Steph Curry foul, he was called flagrant.
that
Absolutely
mouthpiece.
not. He was shooting a layup,
Yeah.
and his arm flew and hit. Like, it's not a
Absolutely.
flagrant foul. It was not intentional.
And another thing with that is this, like, they give the referees so much room for interpretation for these things. And like you said, the refs should come together at the beginning to make that decision, but every ref is different. Every ref has a different opinion of what they think is right, what they think is wrong. And with that, like the NFL, no consistency, which is what people are getting upset over.
And I think that they obviously have had this training. They have earned their spot in these professional leagues.
Absolutely.
I totally respect NFL refs, NBA refs.
And I understand where
anyone,
they're
but-
trying to go is show an example for the younger audience that you shouldn't be fighting on the court, that kind of thing, as the NBA becomes a more
Well, they're
family-friendly
not
game.
fighting, it's a foul. And I just think, let them play. If it's a necessary foul, call it. Also, a long game, quit calling fouls.
Keep it going. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's Quick Hitters.
But don't go anywhere because our two FCS experts will be here to break down the playoff bracket heading into the final week of the regular season. With so much surrounding the FBS playoff, many people forget about the other guys, as in the FCS football. I'm joined at the desk by our experts Mason Stolf and Evan Piercy to break down the FCS playoffs. So guys, who do you think is going to be the first team to end a week off or a bye week, Mason?
Oh, I think if there's going to be a team that's currently not in position for a bye week that's going to get one, it's going to be Southern Utah. They're currently leading the Big Sky, which is one of those tough conferences to predict as far as where people are going to go. But I like Southern Utah. They have big wins this season. They have Western Illinois. They beat North Dakota. They're going to beat Northern Arizona, I think, this weekend, another ranked team.
But Northern Arizona is ranked 24th in the country.
Yeah.
So Utah's ranked 15th in the country. So here's where you're wrong.
18th?
You're 18th in the country, but still, you're still missing the point of if they beat a team that's not as good as they are, they don't deserve.
But
that
they're going to have a
number one seed.
conference championship. They're going to win
Yes,
the Big
but
Sky.
would you rather give a conference would you rather give the number one seed to a team that actually deserves
It's not
it,
the
or
number
a
one.
conference
The
that, or
number
a team
one
that wins a bad conference?
The number one team is either going to be James Madison from the CAA, or it's going to be either North Dakota State or Jacksonville State. One of those teams is going to be number one. We're talking about which team.
But the bye. If you
top
wanna
8 get a bye. The top 8 get a bye.
Yes,
I think,
but they're not in the top 8. They're not. They
but
don't
that's the point of the
deserve it.
question. Which team is outside the top 8 that you think is going to end up in the top
But
8
they're
from the
not,
committee?
because the team that's going to get it is South Dakota State.
come on.
South Dakota State's
Oh,
going to get
South
it.
Dakota State's already in it. South Dakota State
So
is
South Dakota State does not have a first-round bye currently, and they're getting ready to play. Or
South
South
Dakota-
Dakota State already did. Sorry, South Dakota is going to get it.
That's even worse.
No, it's not.
South Dakota's going to lose their final 3 games.
No, it's not. They're going to beat South Dakota State. Their
Oh,
offense,
come on.
their offense is better than South Dakota State.
It is
They
not.
have more.
South Dakota
yes,
State
they
beat
do.
beat North Dakota
South
State.
Dakota has 524 yards per game compared to South Dakota State, which is
Ellie,
465
move on to the next
yards per
question.
game.
I can't.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to move out of the Midwest because we're going to just move on. So what matchups do we look forward to in the first round?
Well, the first matchup I really want to look at least predicted, is going to be the South Dakota team that you inexplicably put in the top 8 against Montana, because I don't really know who's going to host that game. You have a perennial power in Montana going up against South Dakota. If that's played at Montana, at Washington Grizzly Stadium, which I believe is the toughest place to play in all of FCS, that is going to be an absolutely monumental match.
Look, I'm not going to be focused on the game because South Dakota is going to be in the first round bye. So I'm going to ignore what you said right there and focus on my game, which is Elon Furman. And I think you would agree at this because this matchup already occurred this season, and Elon won by 3. It was a great played football game. I would love to see this match again. I don't really care where it is, whether it's at Elon or whether it's at Furman. I want to see these two teams go back at it because it was such a great football game.
I want to see that game, but I think the wider FCS audience is going to prefer to see South Dakota, Montana, just because South Dakota earlier in the season looked like they could be battling for a top 8 spot. Then they're going to lose their final 3 games. That's not going to happen.
They're not going to lose their final 3 games.
They are going to lose their final 3 games.
Teams? Elon Furman?
My two teams, my 2 matchups are Elon Furman and then Central Connecticut State versus New Hampshire. They're both 7-3 teams, very balanced, both very similar offensively and defensively. Matchup. And I feel like it's just, you get to the point where you're just a football fan and you just love to watch great football games.
And again, that's going to be where that game is played, because if it's played up in Durham in the middle of November, that's going to be really tough to play. Same thing if it goes down to Central. It's still Connecticut in the middle of November. It's going to be a really tough place to play.
You're going to have probably some weather, whether it be just like rain, maybe even some snow. Who knows?
If it's up in Durham, there's going to be snow. There better be anyway.
Great football.
That makes for good football.
It makes for great football. It doesn't make for good football. It makes for great football.
I'm excited for some playoff football coming up. That's all the time we have for the FCS. But when we come back, we have some way too early NBA breakdowns. Stick around. We'll be right back.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
The NBA season is a month in, and already we're seeing some teams struggle. I'm joined at the desk by our NBA experts, Emmanuel Tobe and Brad Clear, to break down what's going on with the Cavaliers and the Thunder. So guys, let's kick it off with the Cavs. 7-7 start, definitely not what they're used to being, I'd say. Emmanuel, what's going on?
For me, I would say it's a drop in production in terms of offense. Like last year, Cleveland was number 5 in field goal percentage. They're number 2 in three-pointers made, as well as number 4 in total points per game. They have gone down in every single offensive category, including assists, which now they're, I believe, number 19. Their offense is not scoring. Their offense is not contributing like they were last year. And right now, they're just looking for players to help LeBron, but they're looking and you can't find any.
Yeah, I agree with that in the sense that you lose Kyrie Irving, you don't have an adequate replacement for him so far in the season. That's going to happen. I think the issue last year and still is now is going to be their defense. That was their biggest issue against the Warriors. It has been so far. They shouldn't be losing to teams like Brooklyn, teams like New Orleans. They should be in Atlanta.
Who do you think's to blame for that on defense?
I think it's just a whole. I don't think it's really one individual. I think, though, the offensive things that you said, I think when Isaiah Thomas comes back, I think those numbers will rise up to the level they were last year. Maybe not.
To me, I don't think Isaiah Thomas can bring, because it's not just a point guard thing where they're just struggling in terms of their point guard.
But he gives them another go-to offensive option on the perimeter.
But that's if he comes back healthy. You know, rumors and stuff and reports are coming out that they don't really know. They don't really have a certain time to before his return.
It's come out recently that it's likely for January. But like you're saying, he may not be the player he was last year. But at the same time, You're taking, Dwayne Wade and Derrick Rose
Dwayne
and
Wade's
Jose
slow
Calderon
now.
into. Yes, I'm saying that you're upgrading the ball being in those guys' hands more into Isaiah Thomas's hands more, which is going to bring the offense up. The defense may not necessarily rebound, which I think is their biggest
You
struggle
guys think
so
they're
far.
getting old over in Cleveland too?
Oh, yes, they've been old.
part
But
of it.
to me, the thing with LeBron is he's always, not always, but usually when he's on a team, a successful team, he has like a young kind of fire off the bench that really kind of pull him together. Like last game where they had Corver who scored 21 and 19 in the
Young
fourth quarter.
Corver?
Young Corver.
He's old.
Well, hey guys, that's enough for Cleveland right now. Let's go to the West. Let's talk about the Thunder. Brad, they got a big 3 over there. They're 6-7, not where they want to be either. What's going on over there?
I think it's really just meshing as a unit. It's the first time these three have played together as a unit on a team so far. And that's just to be expected when you have big threes come together. When Miami Heat had that a few years ago with Bosh, LeBron, D. Wade, it took them a long time to mesh and to get going as a unit. Kevin Love, Kyrie, and LeBron a few years ago also. So it takes time. I think they will end up being the 4th best team in the West. Russell Westbrook is an MVP caliber player, and I think Paul George and Carmelo can thrive in the roles that they are put in off the ball. So I think in time they'll mesh as a unit, but there's not really one area that I see as a glaring weakness.
I can think of one area that's not going to improve. I agree that the chemistry will improve. They'll start playing together. That will improve. But their rebounding is bad right now. They're number 30. They're 31st in defensive rebounds, 31st in the league, as well as 21 in total rebounds per game. I mean, they're not going up for the ball. The leading rebounder on that team for defensive rebounds is Russell Westbrook, their point guard.
And I
not
don't
Steven
think,
Adams.
Not Steven
which
Adams.
is what you would expect.
Exactly.
I don't necessarily see that improving much during the season because you're playing, other than Steven Adams, you're playing Carmelo, you're playing Jeremy Grant or Roberson with Paul George and Russell
So
Westbrook.
guys, real quick, sorry to cut you guys
all
off, but who can turn it around by the end of the season? Cavs or Thunder? Manny, who do you think?
Honestly, at the end of the season, I would say more Thunder, but the problem is they're in the West.
Okay.
So I feel like they will turn it around, win more games and stuff like that. But them being in the West means competition is harder.
Sure.
When we start talking about the playoffs, they have a
You
lot
don't think the
harder
Cavs turn
road.
it around?
Let's hear it real quick.
I
Who's
think
your
it's
pick?
got to be both. I think the Cavs
Yeah.
end up as the 2 seed in the East, Thunder is the 4 seed in the West. I think that's pretty adequate for turning it
Awesome.
around, I
All
would
right.
say.
Thank you guys. Got a lot of basketball to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Big season ahead of us. But that's all the time we got for NBA basketball. Up next, Ellie's joined the desk by our NASCAR expert, so don't go anywhere.
After another series of incredible races in the Monster Energy Cup Series, we're down to the final 4 drivers who will compete at Homestead for the championship next weekend. Those drivers are Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and the likely favorite Martin Truex Jr. I'm joined by our resident NASCAR expert David Flint to break it all down. So David, how many more shots will Jimmy Johnson have?
I give him 5 more seasons. He's 40 years old, by far the elder statesman at Hendrick Motorsports starting next year once Dale Earnhardt Jr. retires. He and Chad Knaus are arguably the most potent driver-crew chief combo ever in the sport. I don't see him losing a step. As much as I'd not like to see him win an 8th title, he's going to have another chance to, maybe multiple chances to. I give him 5 years to do it. By that time, Rick Hendrick will have a young development guy in the pipeline ready to take the seat.
Well, let's
and
talk
they'll just
about
go
what it
on
meant to
real quick.
NASCAR. Johnson blew a tire, was eliminated this season from winning his 8th Cup title. What does this mean for Johnson and for NASCAR?
I don't think it means as much as people would like to think it does, just because Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus are so good and work so well with one another, they'll find a way to come back. Blown tires happen. They're more luck than anything, but Hendrick as a whole, other than Chase Elliott and spurts, has been down across the board this year.
Now, moving on, Matt Kenseth won a race at Arizona. It was kind of unlikely victor of that race. Is this the last we've seen from Kenseth this year?
It's the last we've seen once next week at Homestead is over of Kenseth in a competitive car. He might still have the drive to get it done, but he's too old to build around at the age of 45 when a lot of his peers at that age are either already out, Gordon and Stewart, are on the way out, Dale Jr., and he wants too much money. Sponsors aren't willing to put together the dollars that they used to.
So you're saying he's done after the season?
In a competitive car, if he wants to go to a back marker, he might be able to run 15th with it, but I don't see a former champion like him taking that ride.
Now, the ultimate question, who is going to win the title next weekend?
It's going to be Kevin Harvick. All 4 cars, I think, have a legitimate chance. I mean, Martin Truex, the second best average finish on a mile and a half in history, only to Bobby Labonte's 2000 championship year. And then you've got Kyle Busch, who arguably, maybe not arguably, the most raw driving talent of anybody we've seen in this generation.
Well, tell me this. I'm not really familiar. Is it whoever wins this race obviously wins the title, but how close are they in points?
They come in dead even. The way the format works is the top 4 are reset at 5,000 points apiece. And for only those 4 drivers, stage points do not apply.
Oh, I see. Yes, because they changed the format a few years ago, correct?
Right.
Okay, so who is the unlikely victor in this 4?
Brad Keselowski, just because they haven't been on par with their own standard lately. They kind of backed their way into that 4th position last week at Phoenix, partially because of the luck of Denny Hamlin blowing a tire. Hamlin was in position to get that spot until that happened, and Chase Elliott was one spot short of winning and getting himself in. So for especially Keselowski and the Penske guys, they're going to need to find some speed, but he and crew chief Paul Wolfe have always been known to try contrarian strategies, and more often than not, they've worked.
So who has the best crew? I mean, and I think a lot of people don't realize in NASCAR that it really depends on your crew, how your driver actually does. So who do you think has the best crew?
Kyle Busch, simply because he's Joe Gibbs Racing, and Joe Gibbs Racing, rumor is in the garage, they have better pit guns. Their pit stops for tire variety tend to be 3 or 4 tenths of a second faster every round. They can change 4 tires in 11.2 seconds.
That's incredible. That's one thing I love at the part of racing that I think is so interesting is watching them go into the pits, because it is such a skill, and I think that it's like in other sports you have this timeout, but in racing the timeout is the most important part of the race.
Right. The time you're stopped in your pit stall can determine whether you win or lose a race.
Right, and like you said, that his pit team is wonderful, and I think personally that puts a big difference in the race itself.
And that also depends on where they qualify. Where you qualify also determines your pit selection.
Who's starting at the pole? Do we know?
We will not know that until Friday.
Okay, and then that depends on, obviously, who starts at the pole, where you start. So, David, thank you so much for joining me. This was a wonderful discussion, and I'm excited about the winner. That's all the time. Thomas will be joined at the lounge for a little FBS playoff picture coming up next.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning, 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash, 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. It's so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi! God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
Past weekend was full of top 25 matchups that had some significant impact on the college football playoffs. I'm joined in the lounge by our college football experts, Ennis Warlick, Jimmy Longo, and Mahal Zaffel, as they're going to break down everything you need to know. So guys, let's get into it. Big weekend, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Big weekend. So which matchup had the biggest impact on the playoff picture, Matt?
I said Notre Dame and Miami because you look at Notre Dame, they're in the top 4. They were undefeated, undefeated except for their one loss. So they were looking up. They obviously an independent team with no conference championship game. They had a lot of good prospects, and Miami just kind of came in there and tore them apart.
So my question is, did you even watch the Georgia game?
Yeah.
I thought the Miami game was awesome. The U is back. They got the chain gang 3 times in that game. But I think Auburn and Georgia was the best game by far.
Georgia got Yeah,
I mean,
Georgia
just
got
look at
slapped.
Auburn's defense. They shut down Nick Chubb to 27 yards.
Yes,
No one has done that this
and
year.
that's Georgia's strength. They can run the ball, and they just didn't run the ball that night. They got smacked.
And this is going to put a lot of pressure on the committee, this game.
Yes.
I think what built
Because
emphasis for
Georgia
me on
lost.
Miami was that they're undefeated. People were obviously questioning how strong their schedule was, and here they are playing a top 4 team, and they showed that they belong in the top 4, which they should be after this new ranking comes out.
So guys, we were just talking about Georgia got absolutely whooped by Auburn 40-17 this past weekend. Is Georgia still a top 4 team?
I don't think they are. I think that, and it's not a knock to Georgia. It's just there's so many other strong teams that have played so well as of late that there's just no room for them in the top 4 right now.
Yeah, as of right now, I would say no. But they need some hope. And once they get to the SEC championship game, if they play Alabama or Auburn, they need to win
I'm
that.
not quite convinced yet. And the reason why is because Bama's not that good against the run. And they showed that against Mississippi State last week. The QB for Mississippi State ran for 66 yards. The running back ran for 97. That's Georgia's strength. I think I'm just not
But if
convinced.
they beat Auburn or Alabama, because they're going to play Auburn again if Auburn wins the Alabama game. But either team they play,
That's a
if
big
they
if
win,
too. If they just
Yeah, it's a
casually
big
beat
if.
Bama in the regular
that
season.
will put them in the top 4.
All right, so big if. So you guys sound like you got Georgia pretty much in the top 4 still, and this is kind of on the fence. So if they're not in it, who is? Matt, who's got your top 4?
I got Alabama and then Oklahoma, and then I put Miami at the 3, sliding ahead of Clemson, who's at the 4.
I have Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, and then Clemson.
Wow. All right.
I've got the same as Jimmy, but I'm here to tell you Oklahoma's not going to be there for long. And if they stay in this playoff, they're not going to be in the playoff.
They're going to win out, and they're going to win the championship game. I'm interested to see the U against Clemson ACC championship game. That's going to be
It's gonna
a
be interesting.
big game changer. Because then who are you going to put in? Wisconsin, or are you going to put in Auburn
And
or
that's,
Georgia?
yeah, Jimmy's right. It's a fantastic game. When you look at Miami, obviously they play defense. Alabama plays great defense. Oklahoma doesn't play defense. They're
They
relying on
don't
the
play
strength of their
defense.
offense,
I've been
which
saying this for
isn't
weeks.
the worst thing
But
because
hey, Baker
Mayfield
Mayfield
is going to win the Heisman Trophy. He leads a great offense. So I don't think they can get to the championship game on their offense solely, but I think they can get to the top 4 when the college football final ranking comes
Well,
out.
Wisconsin plays both offense and they play both defense. I think they're
But they don't
balanced.
play anybody good.
Yeah, this is just a big
You got me there.
This
yeah.
is another reason why I think the committee should make it 6 teams or 8 teams because
I
these-
agree.
It's a different
We got a lot
argument.
of
Let's make
debate.
our picks real quick. Who's winning the national championship? Real fast. Go.
Bama.
Alabama.
It's got to be Bama.
Roll
There's no
Tide.
question.
All right. Sounds like Bama still got it. That's all the time we got for this football block, though. Don't worry. Ellie will be joining me at the desk as we discuss the most overrated rivalries out there.
The Red Sox and the Yankees, Duke and UNC, Barcelona and Real Madrid. There's nothing like a rivalry, and there's very few things sports fans enjoy more than having a team they love to hate. But not all rivalries are created equal. Which rivalry is most overrated, Thomas?
Overrated. We're going to Los Angeles, city of 2 teams. And I'm not talking about the Rams and the Chargers yet because I think
Ooh.
that's going to be my future worst rivalry because those guys.
That's not even a rivalry.
Well, we're going to talk about the Clippers and the Lakers here. What? Like,
Yeah.
is there even a chance that the Clippers can come to the same
I think
level
a lot of
as the
people
Lakers?
forget that the Clippers are even a team.
Exactly. Like,
now.
how do you grow up in Los Angeles with the amount of success that the Lakers have? 16 championships. You know how many the Clippers have? 0. Tons of Hall of Famers for the Lakers, like so many, just Shaquille O'Neal, Magic Johnson, Jerry West,
Right.
all these great guys. There are 2 on the Clippers that played more than 1 season.
Let's hear it.
I don't know.
You don't know. You just have 2 players.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
there's 2 players. That's fine.
That's crazy. I guess
Exactly.
you play. I feel like that's like a minor league team, and then you hope to maybe make it.
And they're
I've
good
never heard
now.
anyone say, "I would love my dream goal is to play for the LA Clippers."
Exactly.
you
And
know?
the thing is like, they're good teams. They just weren't good at the same time. So there was never really that hometown
I'm going
thing.
with the Cowboys and the Redskins, and my dad may be disappointed in me saying this, but I believe that this was once a great rivalry, and it is no longer so.
Yeah.
And from Christmases and Thanksgiving games and times when they were both so good, but I will tell you that the Cowboys have dominated the Redskins. The issue is the Redskins just haven't been good.
How do you think that the rivalry started in the first place? Why was it so good
I mean,
back in the day?
so long ago. I mean, these are 2 of the original teams in the NFL and long time, the Cowboys were
Division
America's
rivals
team.
too,
We
right?
talked about Jerry Jones today,
Yeah.
and they have been so powerful. And I love that Thanksgiving's coming up, and I will tell you, I look forward to every year watching the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
But just no longer. It used to be that if the Cowboys and the Redskins were playing, no matter if you were fans of the team, you were watching this game because it was so good. Now I can almost guarantee you that the Cowboys will win because the Redskins it's no fun anymore.
They got Captain
but I will
Kirk
tell
now.
you,
He's doing all right.
Yeah.
He's doing okay. Hey, Redskins, they might have a shot at the end of it. But hey, that's all the time we got for the show today. If you missed anything, you can check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at One on One Sports. Have a great day, everyone.
And thanks for watching.
Whose
Whose side are you on?